Hello world, it's Birdo Prey 5 Qapla, and welcome to my review of Star Trek Picard, Season 2, Episode 1, Stargazer, or The Stargazer? Either way, doesn't matter. Stargazer. So, we open with a red alert. We don't know what ship it is, but we've got TNG-like uniforms. I don't know if they're 25% different or if they're futuristic at this point. It turns out they're futuristic. I guess these take place. This is current year Picard, which we find out a little later is a year and a half after the end of the events of the last season. So if last season took place in 2399, then this would be the year, or the year 2499, excuse me. Then this is the year 2501, perhaps, 2502, somewhere around then. I'm kind of disappointed we didn't get to see the new year of 2499 into 2500, but such is life. So we got this thing that looks like the old AI. It's got these tentacles, and the tentacles are plugging into all the electronics on the ship. Picard is there. He's an old man. Why is he there? Dr. Jurati's there. Why is she there? There appears to be a Borg woman throwing tentacles at everything. I don't know what the new Trek has this fascination with tentacles, but the Borg says Picard, which makes no sense because a Borg woman should call him Locutus, but if they called him Locutus at this point, then it would have given away the fact that, oh, it was a secret. We weren't supposed to recognize that that was a Borg covered in some type of cloak. But I mean, unless you're an idiot, you realize that it was a Borg. So we got our new opening credits. We got broken pieces of glass, painted glass. We've got our space vagina. I don't know how else to explain it. The ship looks like a giant vagina, and it's a Borg ship, and it'll come into the episode later on. We've got, looks like crystals, diamonds. They form some sort of DNA, but DNA, I mean, Jean-luc Picard, he doesn't have DNA anymore. He's a robot. So I don't even know if he's capable of creating DNA. And yeah, this is going to be a story about Admiral Picard's love life, and very much questions whether he can even produce offspring at this point. Not because of his age, but because of the fact he's technically a synth. I don't know. I mean, we know Data was programmed in multiple techniques. I'm sure he can do the deed, but we don't know if that deed could result in offspring, even though it very much looked like some type of fetal Picard we just saw. So maybe this is the series where Picard finally fathers a child. Maybe. I mean, he does go out of his way to say he is the last Picard in just a few moments. So after the credits, we pan down from the sky to Earth, and it was 48 hours earlier. So it was one of those credits where, 48 hours earlier at Chateau Picard. Some of this has the dog, so I really question if they even filmed this new, because remember the dog number 1, they had to get him out of the studio because he was biting people. He wasn't fit to be a movie dog. But now he's back. So either he went through some training, or this was filmed last season. which it could have been either way. There's nothing we see here that couldn't have been used from the first season of Picard. Anyway, we got a bunch of people hand packing boxes of Chateau Picard. Laris is still here. Her husband, Shaban, he unfortunately met with a death off screen to explain why she's alone. I suspect they didn't have the money to keep paying him to be in the show. They could only pick one of the two, and of course they picked Laris. Don't get me wrong, I would have picked her too. But now a very awkward scene where Picard and Laris are alone at the chateau at the end of a big night. It's the night of the harvest is finally over. They've packed all their wine for the year, and he's saying how this is one of his favorite days on Earth, the day that it's a celebration of all the hard work, the end of the season. And Laris says that's one way of looking at it. And he's like, well, what way, why would you look at it? And she's like, I don't know. She's constantly speaking Romulan, and it's not translated. So Picard is learning Romulan. So he says, seize today, for we know nothing of tomorrow. And she's like, today is glorious, and none of our tomorrows are guaranteed. And to which, of course, Picard makes a toast to Shaban, her former husband. And she has to point out, he's like, you must miss him. He does. Picard misses him. She's like, even now, after a year and a half, she still misses him. So maybe it's even more than a year and a half since the events of Picard. That would have meant Shaban died. Did Shaban die at the end of Picard? Anyway, she's like, but remember, Romulans don't mourn the loss like humans do. They love deeply, and then they move on and love more deeply still. And Picard's getting an uncomfortable feeling, and I'm not saying in his pants, but he's getting an uncomfortable feeling. And he's like, is she hitting on me? Yes, she is. She's come to wonder, did Picard seek the stars or run away from something to go to the stars? And it turns out in this episode, we learn why Jean-luc Picard went to space to begin with. And guess what? It has to do with his mother and his not so good father. Maybe we have reason to believe that Picard wanted to be the last Picard. He's trying to tell her that, I made his life in the stars, so he never had time for love. Well, he had time, at least a few times. He says the part of him that really wants has to wait in line for behind the part that waits, that does duty and all the other stuff. He doesn't mean duty. He means duty to Starfleet. The organization that last season hoped he was gone, whose admirals reminded him that he was a loser, and the sheer effing hubris for even coming to talk to them. That's Starfleet. That's who he's loyal to. The Starfleet that gave up on the Romulans, the Starfleet that banned synthetics. But now he only looks back with love. And they're just coming to kiss. And he realizes, hey, this actress is probably 40 years younger than me. And if I kiss her, I'll probably get Me Too'd. Maybe 50 years. I don't know. He doesn't do it. She realizes it's never going to happen. She gets up to break the awkwardness and reminds him he has a speech tomorrow. And now we go to a flashback to Jean-luc as a child, and we get the answer as to why he never married or even had any strong love interest, at least in this timeline. Obviously, in the All Good Things timeline, he married Dr. Crusher and they divorced. So this doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So I thought Chateau Picard was in the Picard family for generations. Apparently, his father started it. Maybe it was in the family with, a cousin or an uncle, but Picard's father and mother moved to what appears to be an abandoned, in fact, it is. It's an abandoned winery. While Picard wasn't even born there, Picard looks like he was maybe a 7 or 8 year old boy, and they moved in. The mother tells him he's going to love it there. He'll forget about Paris. The stars are better. There's magic here, and the father can play in the dirt. His brother can go to school, and this will be there. This is some type of outdoor room with a whole bunch of glass. The mother says we can paint the windows. We'll have our own space, just you and me. And so baby boy Picard says, will you fight less? Because he realizes his mother and his father fighting is why, and we get flashbacks to maybe the father is actually assaulting the mother, which is awful thing to see, especially from a kid's eyes. So now we understand that Picard never pursued true love and romance because he was afraid, I assume, that what was in his father is in himself, and he dare not risk becoming the man his father was. So he just say, fuck it, I'll never do that again. And so throughout the unfortunate fire that killed his nephew, Rene, and his brother, the family line ends with him. He's the last Picard. But as an adult, Picard is standing there picking up pieces of glass like they never rebuilt this particular room after the fire 25, 30 years ago. That makes no sense. We get this cool zoom out from Earth to some far, I thought they were out of the galaxy, but after rewatching it, I guess they're still in the galaxy somewhere. And this big, not quite Praxis level explosion happens, but this big green hole opens in space, and the Azor, I believe, this is, and we find out later it'll be Rios' ship, but the starship gets knocked out of, knocked off balance by the opening of this great rift, and Starfleet is like, we detected this rift in space. Please advise. So it's the next morning. Laris has been looking for Picard all around the house, so much so now his drink is cold. His iced tea, his Earl Grey tea is now cold. Anyway, Picard says about last night, stops talking. He says he's looking for a book. And he's like, it's a green book with yellow lettering, and he doesn't know where it is, but Laris, of course, knows exactly where it is. She gives it to him. He says, oh, thank you. And he says, Laris, last night I was, and she says, you were you. Not you, the Borg, or you, but you, him. You were him. You were Picard. So nothing has to change, he says. It's already changed. It's already changed. That's been clear for both of them to some time. It'd be too awkward. It'd be too awkward to hang around. So I guess she's gone. Anyway, she says, you have any idea how it is to be late in the age of transporters? And yet Picard finds a way. Picard doesn't strike me as a man who's chronically late. And I don't even think last season we saw that. So we see Starfleet Academy in San Francisco, and Picard is making a speech, and he says, the true final frontier is time. In command, as in life, what we do in crisis, what we do upon us lies upon us less heavily than what we wish we had done, what could have been. Now we're seeing all these flags from all these. I don't understand why these flags are here. We see a flag, and I'll pause it if need be. Let's back it up. Let's back it up. Okay, right. I don't know if you can see it, but I'll try and clip it or something. Very clearly, we have a Klingon flag, a flag I don't know, the United Federation of Planets, Starfleet Command, Starfleet Academy, the Vulcan flag, the Bajoran flag, and another two flags I can't figure out what they are. But why is a Klingon and a Ferengi flag. The Bajoran flag, then the Ferengi flag, and then two flags I can't figure out. Why is there a Klingon flag? Are we saying that the Klingons have joined, the Klingons and the Ferengi have joined the Federation by the year 2502 or 2502 or 2505, maybe somewhere around there. I'm not exactly sure that if we get a star date, I didn't do the math, but let's say Shaban died 2 years ago, or 1.5 years, which wasn't immediately at the end of the last. So let's say it's been 3 years. So that would put us at 2502. We're saying that the Klingons and the Ferengi have joined the Federation. I'm a bit surprised, but let's say, okay, fine. But you know what's not on stage? Any Klingons. And I went back and forth, and I looked through everybody in the audience. I looked through everybody I could find in any other shots. There are no Klingons to be found. Oh, they're talked about, I think. I might be mixing it up with the Discovery episode, which I also watched, but that will be a separate review. But there are no Klingons, again, to be seen. Continuing, the last time we saw a Klingon was back in season 1 of Picard, and it was just a picture of Worf. There's been no Klingon sightings in either Star Trek Discovery or Star Trek Picard since season 2 of Discovery ended. Thank God. So I don't know what this flag is on my that side. Yeah, there, the blue one. It has like an H on it or a Y. I don't know. Not the Federation one, obviously. So Raffi is there. Okay, so there's this whole big thing where Picard wants to acknowledge Elnor, the first fully Romulan cadet at Starfleet Academy. And everybody gives him a standing ovation. And I don't like this. Do I think Worf got a standing ovation for being the first Klingon? Do I think Data got a standing ovation for being the first robot android? Do I think Nog got a standing ovation for being the first Ferengi? No, the entire Federation is about these first. They don't need to be celebrated. In fact, it's better that you just treat everyone equally. That is the whole promise of the Federation. You don't want your differences pointed out. You want to be part of the Federation to not look at the differences to begin with. So Picard is giving a speech. He talked about how he had all these explorers in the family, but he's going to end his speech on the words of his mother, who was not an explorer. She would point to the night sky and say, "Look up, Jean-luc, and let's see what's out there." And then we get a hard transition to Rios's old ship, the La Salena. It's beaten up to hell, and we're in the ship, and there's lots of cargo, and we've got some sketchy characters walking with phasers drawn, and 7 of 9 is back. 7's back. Apparently 7 has taken over Rios' ship, and I don't understand. There's 2 people walking down a hallway, a corridor, with phasers. 7 is sneaking around. I don't know what she's got, but and then the holograms are back. The Portuguese speaking hologram is saying there's something going on outside, and okay, so this guy says, "Come on, speak. Show your ugly Borg face." And I'm sorry, I have a hard time believing anybody is calling 7 of 9 ugly. She might not be the hottest woman ever, but nobody's going to call her ugly, especially that dude. So there's another blonde woman who is part of the group of people attacking. This blonde woman must really be a blonde, because even though the first 2 or 3 phaser shots go through Emmett, the hologram, she continues shooting him as she gets closer, like she doesn't know how holograms work. Well, 7 of 9 disengages the safety protocol, and then Emmett able to beat her up a little, and then 7 sees her and jumps on her, and they take a fly off the walkway, and she tackles her, and the hologram says, "We need to fix this." So this year, I guess they listened to us, which is good for them. So instead of just executing these people, as 7 would have done last year, they purposely show them tying them up and then beaming them back, I assume, to their ship. I would like to think that the old 7 would have beamed them into space, but why would you need to tie them up if you were beaming them into space? So 7 says she never should have merged the hollows, meaning because now one hologram does everything, including therapy. So she doesn't want the therapy lesson now. So now she's saying, you were talking about outside, a subspace distortion, tachyon fluctuations, massive spike in Hawking radiation. And so she's like, show me. And it comes up on screen. And wouldn't you know it, out of everywhere in the galaxy, 7 is also at the same place with the big giant green space anomaly. Now they're trying to tell us, what is it? Like, we have to try to figure out, what is this happening? But let's not forget who we're dealing with. It's green. It's in space. So you know what that means? It either means Romulans or Borg. The Romulans don't seem to be a threat anymore. So guess what? We knew it was Borg just by being the color green. Even if we didn't know from the 48 hours after that was clearly a Borg, I know now that's a Borg opening hole in space. Only because it's green. I would have bet good money on it. So now we're on Radarin 4, in the beta quadrant. And this is a sickening scene. We've got the, I don't know how to call them. Let's say the 1%, perhaps. And Soji, is that her name? She's been touring the galaxy for since the Federation lifted the ban on synthetics. And she's like, there's one thing I've learned: you can't earn trust through an interpreter. It has to come from here and here, her heart and her mouth. And then she speaks in their native language. She's saying something about when the heart has spoken. And everybody laughs and claps and they love her. But no, I mean, you can earn trust, and it doesn't come from here. You have universal translators. There's no reason to be talking somebody else's Earth-like language. They would just see you speaking their language. It's like technology has regressed. Technology has regressed. Anyway, one of these guys comes over and tries to flirt with Dr. Jurati, but Dr. Jurati is drunk as a skunk, and I don't know what that means. Why would skunks get drunk? But whatever. Anyway, he wants to see her hands, because he wants to see what hands would create such a wonder. So does Dr. Jurati say, oh, I didn't actually create Soji, or anything to that effect, because she didn't. Instead, Dr. Jurati says, you're flirting with me. I need to tell you the truth. I'm not dateable material. Hint, Dr. Jurati. I don't think he wants to date you long term. I mean, it might just be me, but he's coming up to you, can see you're drunk. He's in a bar. You know you're going to leave and probably never see him again, and he will probably never see you again. I don't think he wants a long-term relationship, but whatever. She's like, oh, this is how pretty people flirt, because, right, she's not pretty. And she's like, I'm half in the bag anyway. So her longest intimate relationship, including one that just ended, is less than a year. She was just cleared of murdering her previous boyfriend due to alien influence insanity. So we actually get an answer for why isn't Jurati in jail or prison for killing Dr. Maddox, which was a legit question we all had. So we got it. She officially is cleared due to alien incited paranoia. So okay, the system works, I guess, people. The system works. Now, what about all the other people who broke laws in the first season of Picard? Well, I don't know if the system. I'll tell you what doesn't work. The system that made, well, we'll see soon, that made everybody higher ups in Starfleet. So she's not dating material. Again, he doesn't want to date you. He just wants to do some stuff. So Rios calls down. She's like, thank God. And he's like, that's weird, because the last thing you said, literally, was never talk to me again. So Soji and Jurati are walking. So she knows Rios called. How does she know Rios called? And she's like, you eavesdropped on my private conversation with Super Robot Hearing. And she said, well, you did ask me to monitor you to not do any drunk hailing incidents. And she decided that applied to any type of drunk incidents. So Jurati said the we could totally work together thing made more sense on Earth, but his new job comes with a lot of pressure. She's like, how hard could it be? And what's Rios's new job? Well, guess what? He's the captain of a brand new Federation. I don't know, brand new. Of a Federation starship. And he's still smoking his cigar. So he's smoking his cigar on the bridge of a Federation starship. You can't even do that today. Oh, he wants an engagement plan. Right, in case you have to engage the hole in space. I don't understand, but whatever. He could use her on this mission, her brain. She's like, well, that's kind. And oh, look, there's a seat just for her. There's a seat just for her on the bridge. She sits next to him. It's not for his first officer. It's not for anyone else. It's for her. She said, I never told you. Oh, Rios yells, make it so. And they're underway. And she's like, legacy. I never told you to accept a command with baggage. And you're like, what? And they start playing. Now you see, only because I knew. And this episode is called Stargazer. And from the little hints that were dropped early and shots leaked, did we know this was the Stargazer. But they played that little chord of music, whatever it is. I thought for a moment it was the Enterprise. I don't know, F, E, F, G, whatever. But for just a moment, and they played that music that, as far as I remember, was always reserved for when we saw the Enterprise in the earlier movies. And they played it to show us the Stargazer. Don't get me wrong, the new Stargazer is a nice ship, but it's no Enterprise. And I think that should be reserved for the Enterprise. But it is a beautiful view of the USS Stargazer, NCC 8283. Now, I'm kind of confused. Maybe that's just a separate number from the old Stargazer. This is the first ship of its class, we're told, but there's no bloody A, B, C, or D. So I don't remember offhand the USS Stargazer's registry number, but if it's a new ship, I would have expected a -A or something. And this is the Enterprise music playing over it. The starship, not the series. Beautiful looking ship. The nacelles are a little long, but beautiful looking ship. 4 nacelles, and it warps away. Now, so we got cadets getting assignments, and somebody, an Orion, a green Orion dude, was just assigned to the Hikaru Sulu. So they actually named it after his full name. So it's not like just the USS Kirk. It's the USS James T. Kirk. Not that there is any such ship that we know of, but there has to be, right? I can't imagine them giving a ship to Hikaru Sulu and not giving a ship to James T. Kirk. Is it possible? Yes. Do I think it happened? No. So one guy, he's going to the Sulu. This woman's going to the Grissom, which of course was destroyed in Star Trek II. Oh man, your people did murder the crew of the USS Grissom. Do you deny this? We deny nothing. We have the right to preserve our race. Do you have the right to commit murder? Yes. Okay, so the Grissom was Star Trek 2. Yeah, so the Grissom is still there, or at least the Grissom something, something, something A, perhaps. I don't know. But lots of member berries on starship names. So we see Picard Picard's talking with Raffi, and he's happy being Chancellor of the Academy. And she's like, it focuses on Starfleet. Picard's saying he's looking at updating the Kobayashi Maru. The Kobayashi Maru has to be updated all the time, unless it doesn't make any sense that is something that Picard would have to look into personally. Whatever. So, they're talking about Raffi and Seven's relationship, about how Raffi had hoped there would be something more between her and Seven, and she just says that Picard wouldn't understand. And she's like, no, of course you'd understand, but Picard and Seven are alike in that they're both too self-sufficient and they want to travel the stars. And there's Elnor. Elnor is looking, and it's like a museum, and he's looking at the original, I believe the Stargazer 2983. That's the current Stargazer. So he's worried that his studies may be, I don't know. Oh, he brought a book by Spock. He brought a book by Spock that challenges Spock faced when he was one of the first Vulcans in Starfleet. And he says, exhilaration enhances the absorption of knowledge. In other words, live a little. And Elnor laughs, and he gives the book. And he says he will cherish the book. I thought he was supposed to do absolute candor. He should say, what am I supposed to do with a paper book? I could read this anytime I wanted. But he's being nice. The Excelsior is departing, and Raffi is part of the Excelsior. She's like, that boy's absolute candor is going to get his ass kicked. Really? Starfleet cadets are going to kick the ass of a fellow Starfleet officer for being honest. So why does the Excelsior still look like the Excelsior? I don't understand if we're looking in the background, if that's a picture of the old Excelsior or the current Excelsior. NCC 2000. Again, no bloody A, B, C, or D. And Picard, of course, looks at the Stargazer. Okay, that's the old Stargazer. So it's the old Stargazer he's looking at. This is the new Stargazer because it's got longer nacelles. It also looks a bit different now that I look at it. So they're staring at this hole in space. Rios is playing with his lighter. So just in case we thought that was a holographic cigar or something, no, it's real. So for right now, the hole in space seems stable. And 7 of 9 is in the neighborhood. She was saying, what were you doing here? And he's like, she's showing him an outside view of her ship. He's like, what'd you do to my ship? He said that she's using it to take care of others. A few dents look good. And Dr. Jurati jumps in and says, hi, 7. And then we get this loud noise come across the speakers. And there's some type of message coming through the anomaly. The universal translator can't figure out what the message is. Dr. Jurati says, let me figure this out. Then we have I don't know, this crew member, I guess it's supposed to be Bajoran, but the Bajoran nose looks 25% different. Dr. Jurati is displaying the signal as a waveform. It's not language. Languages, plural. Dozens, all overlaid. The computer should have figured it out. All asking, no, pleading. How can she tell if they're pleading until she can understand the message? It says, help us, Picard. Again, it should be saying, help us, Locutus. But they're trying to hide the fact that they're Borg. We know they're Borg because it was green. So now we're in Los Angeles. And Picard just materializes in the street. And we got cities of greater Los Angeles, Forward Avenue Historic District. So I guess that's why it's going to look like it does now, not because they ran out of money or something. So he's going into 10, I assume, Forward Street, and apparently it's a bar. Cocktails, it says. You got some music playing. You got all that Star Trek looking liquor bottles with no labels, just funny shapes. And there's Guinan. And she knows it's Picard. She's like, I'm in the mood for tea. Earl Grey, piping hot. And Picard says, maybe something stronger. She says, Captain Picard. He goes, Admiral. She's like, excuse me. You'll always be captain to me. And Guinan comes out, looking every bit as old as Whoopi Goldberg looks now. She's like, so good to see. And he brought a single bottle. A single bottle of wine. The man owns a fucking vineyard. He could have had a case, at least 100 cases, forwarded. No, one bottle of wine from his vineyard. And he tells her she should put it in her special reserve. And she says, for a man pushing 100 a century, and me pushing several centuries, I don't think anything should be in reserve. And then Picard says, well, Alorians age so very slowly, as if he doesn't see how much he's aged. But now we find out why. Guinan looks so old, because Alorians only age slowly if they choose to. So she's chosen to look old because it makes the humans she interacts with feel better. Okay? Alorians don't have to age if they don't want to. Well, Jesus, maybe somebody could have told that to that crazy guy in what was that? Oh, the movie Star Trek Generations. Because the entire plot of that movie was he was running out of time because he was dying soon. And he looked less old than Whoopi Goldberg looks now. But his time was running up. In fact, he told Jean-luc Picard, he said, Captain, time is the fire in which we burn. He had to get something done right away because it would be the last chance in his life. So maybe he was only choosing to age because, well, maybe that you only age when you choose to. Should have just told him, choose not to age, and you wouldn't have to destroy, this poor planet and however many billion people to get back to the Nexus. Oh my God. Whoopi. She tried to keep up, Whoopi. You did a good job aging, Whoopi. I almost don't believe it. There was a time when I really liked you. There was a time I would watch a movie just because Whoopi was in it. Now, I almost shut it off when I see her. But good thing is, I don't think we're going to see much more of her. This entire scene, apparently useless. She gives nothing of particular value. And at the end of the episode, you wonder what the fuck was the point of this? I don't think it really added anything to the story, except he went on The View and asked if she would return. And I guess this is the least they could have done to get her back and just get her name in the credits or whatnot. And considering she's currently on the shit list for The View after saying she, well, you guys remember what she said, and if you don't, even better. But she's currently on the shit list. I think she's still under suspension, so they're probably happy that this is all we're going to see of her. I'm guessing. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we see her back later, but I think this is all we're going to see of Whoopi. So Whoopi says, Guinan says, I know you're not here to reminisce about the old days. It seems the current days are troubling you. She's like, what's wrong? And he's like, what, I can't just come visit a dear old friend? She's like, yeah, you can, but you're not here for that. She faced down galactic threat, diplomacy. They've jumped universes together. And I've never, ever seen you look like this. Oh, wait. I do. She's going to take it back. She has seen you look like this. And it's serious. So the wine's not going to cut it. So top shelf or hooch. So Picard says hooch. So Serrani and brandy or whatever type of brandy it is that Picard likes. Picard is like, it's not like I haven't loved before. He has. Sometimes quite deeply. Well, let's see. How many partners do we know for a fact Picard has had? Okay. In the events, in order that they would have happened in his life. Okay? So when he was at Starfleet Academy, we remember from the episode where Q gives him a second chance. By the way, this is basically that episode all over again. So in that episode, he had he definitely hooked up with the old woman that was coming on to him at the bar. But then he came back and said, oh, you're quite handsome. He's like, handsome? That's what you say to old ladies. And like slaps him or throws a drink on him and leaves. So at least her. Very probably the woman that was his friend there too. So he had some action in Starfleet Academy. Let's give a minimum of 2. Okay, then we got the woman who was not Wesley's mom. We got the woman who the Ferengi tracked down and tried to pretend that the kid was Picard's son. I forget the episode's name. It was a terrible episode. But they genetically altered the kid to make it look like it was Picard's son. And Picard confirmed to number 1 and the crew that it is quite possible that that was his son. So 2, 3. That's 3 women. Vosh is 4. The woman who he walked in on that night in stellar cartography or whatever, who was using the anyway, they end up playing the flute together in the turbo lift or somewhere. I'll say that's 5. The flute. I mean, granted, it wasn't his actual life, but well, you gotta give 6 because he had a couple of kids, but I think it was the same woman he was married. So 6, if you count the flute life. Did I say Vosh already? I don't think I did. Vosh and Dr. Crusher. 8. I ran out of fingers that move. So 8. She's had at least 8 partners. So, okay. None of them for particularly long, I'll grant. But that's not too bad for an Enterprise captain. She was like, this. She's Guinan is like, it was always with people who would always be temporary. So you'd never have to fear any of them taking root. And he's like, that's not quite true. And it's not, because Dr. Crusher, and again, in All Good Things, they were actually married. We just don't know. We should know now what happened to Dr. Crusher. They were definitely romantically involved in Nemesis. There is no way they were not romantically involved in Nemesis. So we need an answer. We need an answer. What happened to Dr. Crusher? Did she fall in love with another ghost? I wouldn't believe so, but maybe. So anyway, Guinan is like, you always talk about love as if you took it seriously, but you don't. The only thing you've ever risked losing is your life. And he's like, that's not insignificant. And Guinan says there's worse things being dead. You know that better than everybody. Yeah, like being a Borg. Well, now he's a robot. She's like, you've been on your own since nearly a century. Really? Is he 120? She's like, why did you decide to go to the stars? He's like, to explore, to meet new civilizations. He's having a hard time remembering. She's like, the only thing, since I've known you, the only thing you've been afraid to explore is your heart. It's in here, whether it's flesh and blood or artificial. She's like, what happened in there that you and I have never talked about? Why is it so hard for you to tell that your daddy hit your mommy and now you don't want to have a relationship? You can tell Guinan. She'll understand. But he doesn't. Guinan's like, you know what? She understands anyway. She thinks his answers are not in the stars. She thinks there's one more final frontier out there for him. So let's have a drink. One final frontier yet to come. They're going to go to the movies and watch Star Trek V, a movie by the former captain, James T. Kirk. So, Chateau Picard, a shuttlecraft lands, and it's a much nicer admiral. They're in cordial, and he's like, please sit down. She's sorry to come in unexpected, but they'd like to get his eyes on it in person. And she puts down a circle thing. Like, it's not, I don't know what it is. I thought it was a comm badge at first. Apparently she clicks it and it opens up a screen in the air. It opened and there's a massive spike in some type of temporal radiation. And then it started speaking, broadcasting. And this is how it begins. Help us, Picard. Help us, Picard. Again, it should be saying, help us, Locutus. But she's like, that's how it began. So she's like, the balance of the message is the entirety of Article 15. Article 15 is a new treaty to join the Federation. So it's an entity that can open and close a hole in space-time, wants to join the Federation, and will only talk to you about it. Just to be clear, we only know they can open the hole. We have not seen them close the hole. So I guess she's just assuming that. So now she's giving him a comm badge. If he accepts it, he's going back to space. He accepted it. Big surprise. And the music gets us all in the mood for him to go into space. And Laris comes home. Hey, Laris. Oh, you just missed him. She's looking for Jean-luc, and the shuttle takes off from the front of the house, and she came in the back, or vice versa. And now she'll probably never see him again because she's going to leave or something. Okay, so now the shuttlecraft makes it all the way to this anomaly in, I guess, no time flat, because nothing's happened, except Picard comes out of the shuttle bay, and who comes to meet him? Only 7. Only 7 of 9. Who is not in Starfleet, not even a Federation member, as far as we know. Apparently, yeah, everybody's all excited to see Picard. They all stand at attention until he walks by. He doesn't tell them that it's okay to stand down. He's happy to see them do it. She's like, she's quite a ship. This isn't his Stargazer. She's like, you don't agree that this is quite a ship? And 7 tells us this is the first in a new class of ship that utilizes components derived from the Borg, the Borg artifact. There are still a lot of people in Starfleet that fear the Borg, and she senses her presence is increasing historic tensions and paranoia. Maybe it's the fact that you're walking around with a pistol that we don't even know if it has a sun setting. Because if it does, you didn't use it. Admiral on the bridge, yells Captain Rios. And everybody stands at attention. And comes Chris. So good to see you. And he's like, good to see you too. So he got back in Starfleet and what? Immediately was given a ship. So he was welcome to the Stargazer. And he's saying, this is certainly sleeker than his Stargazer. The older the refits get, the younger they look. Like himself. Unlike himself. And there's Dr. Jurati with the, oh, you look absolutely positronic. Status. Tactical. Enhance. It wouldn't be a modern show without the enhance. I don't know what they enhanced. But Picard says, let's see if they have anything else to say to me. If he may, open hailing frequencies. This is Admiral Jean-luc Picard responding to your request. Nothing. Kind of weird for somebody waiting to hear from him. He repeats. And now we got something. All the ship's systems are bugging out. And something's coming through. Red alert, says Rios. Back off. Give us some distance. And he smokes his cigar. So, for some reason, the Stargazer appears to get closer to the anomaly. They didn't back off any significant distance. And hey, there's that space vagina ship from the opening credits. And it's coming through. So remember, what we saw happening before the opening credits was 48 hours earlier. So I guess it took about 48 hours for everything we saw to happen. So this thing was what? 1 day away by shuttlecraft? How far away could it be from Earth to be 1 day away by shuttlecraft? And 7 confirms that that ship that is so clearly Borg is indeed Borg. Why does he need to ask 7? He was a Borg. We do get, and I will pause it here, an awesome shot of a Federation fleet. We have the Stargazer front and center. We have what appears to be, I'm guessing that's the Excelsior. It looks like an old Excelsior. It actually looks more like the Enterprise B than the Excelsior, but whatever. That's right there. We've got, I forget some of these. Seems to be quite a few Akira classes. And what are those? Are those Nebula? We see some Nebula classes. And later, when we get a shot from the back, I could have sworn there's at least one Galaxy class in this fleet. Commander Musiker is there to Excelsior is there to assist. They don't need Excelsior. So Rios says, okay, Admiral, you're the ranking officer. Wear the tip of the spear and the devil is calling your name. And he's like, if we don't act, they will. So what do we do, Admiral? Admiral Picard says, I don't know. I don't know what to do. He says, this could be the very point at which history turns. And 7 of 9 is like, Picard, the Borg consume, they assimilate. They don't ask to be assimilated. So, of course, he asks Dr. Jurati. She's like, caution's warranted. But everything about this is unique. It's weird. The Borg we know has been effectively decimated. No, decimated means 1 in 10. 1 in 10. It's not hard. It's not hard to remember that decimated does not mean destroyed. Decimated means 1 in 10 have been destroyed. So you've effectively reduced the Borg by 1/10. So if you had 1 million Borg, now you've only got 900,000 Borg. If you had 1 billion Borg, you've got 990 million Borg. So even if you decimated the Borg twice over, you still have plenty of Borg to be threatened by. More likely, you meant something else other than decimated. So Rio says, would they change tactics? And 7 says, yeah, they would change tactics. Victory by any means necessary. And Dr. Jurati is like, we could be putting a bullet into the greatest ally the Federation ever had. What are you talking about? The Borg have wiped out entire races of 7, including her parents, subjugated exponentially more. And Picard says, yes, but, and 7's like, hear me out. If we destroy one ship, we destroy one Borg ship if we're wrong. But if we do nothing, it's the beginning of the end of the Federation. Now, Picard was ordered. Now, granted, he's an admiral now, not a captain. But Picard was ordered in the past that if he ever has dealings again with the Borg, and he has a way of taking them out, he had been ordered to do so. Now, do I really think a 30-year-old order is going to come into play? No. But it should. Captain Rios is being called to the bridge. Picard's trying to figure out what to do. They're being hailed. And it's the Borg Queen. There is no more time. We will begin negotiations with Picard alone. He's like, how would you propose to do that? We'll send an emissary. We're going to send our queen. And Rios says, there's no way in hell I'm letting them aboard the ship. Everybody seems to think that's a good idea. Shields up. And the Borg space ship, I want to use the other word, opens to the Federation fleet, which is way too close And the transporter signal is trying to beam. They're able to tell it's a single life form consistent with the Borg, that it's human and cybernetic. And the Queen's actually coming. And 7 is like, fire, don't wait till it's too late. Rios opens a channel, says the Borg vessels cease the transport or you'll be fired upon. Anyway, for the first time, we get a visible transporter beam, which appears to be draining the shields. Now, I assume it's actually a phaser or something, but they say it's a transport signal. They're trying to beam right onto the bridge. So he's calling for security to the bridge. Everybody takes out their phasers. There's like 20 people with phasers now on the bridge. And they're all just waiting to see where the beam forms. The beam is forming. Nobody shoots. Well, why don't you just lower your shield then and let her in? So she beams in, but she's got something covering her face. So, and Dr. Jurati says, that's new. So we don't know who it is, but we know they're Borg. We wish for peace, says the Borg. We wish for peace. But we require, what is it? What do you require? Rios. Rios is asking, what do you require? And the tentacles show up. Power. And the first tentacle goes into one computer. The second tentacle goes into the second computer. And she's drawing power from the ship. And 7 is like, fuck this, and just starts shooting. Some other random person starts shooting, and the Queen absorbs the energy and just fires back. She doesn't shoot 7, though. She only shoots the other random red shirt. And now everybody 2 or 3 people start shooting. And maybe 8 people. And the Queen fires at all of them. And it turns out she's stunning them. Dr. Jurati realizes there's things stunned, not killed. Again, nobody fires at 7. Or 7 says it. 7 says she's stunning, not killing. So 7 doesn't get shot. Then we find out that she's trying to take over the bridge controls. The extra security got there. They're all useless. 100% useless. A third tentacle now is going into the computers. Dr. Jurati is saying the bridge she's like, they're trying to take over the bridge. She's getting access to the Borg modifications. They see if they didn't use the Borg modifications, they wouldn't be able to do this. She got the command code for all her ships. The entire fleet is being assimilated. So Rios wants a broadcast to the fleet for them all to open fire, but they can't. The comms has already been overruled. So 7 says, Picard, we can't give her an armada, you know that. So the 80% assimilated. And she says, you're out of time. 85%. Computer, activate auto-destruct sequence, says Picard. Auto-destruct is activated. Waiting final command. Now a song starts playing. I don't understand. She's at 90%. If she gets to 100, they can't self-destruct. Authorization, Picard. 0, 0, 0, 0. Destruct, 0. What's the chances that it's the same sequence? They added an extra 0, I believe. Destruction in 10, 9, 8. And then the Borg Queen says Picard. Calls him over. And then the mother's voice says, look up. And just as it counts down to 0, and the ship explodes, and it takes out the Borg ship, presumably the entire fleet has been destroyed, and we just see empty space. What is going on? Is Picard dead? Oh no, we're zooming out, and all the stars were in his eyes. Was this just the dream? The dream of a sick old man? But he wakes up in that veranda, and there's something weird about the sky. It's covered in a force field. And he's standing up. He's got these big black boots on. And he's got this giant Starfleet emblem on his coat. Nothing's not right. This isn't right at all, but the glass is still there. I don't know if it's been painted or not. It's still smashed. It still looks like this place burnt down, and nobody ever fixed it. Picard is barely able to walk. He's walking around his chateau. He's like, what the fuck happened? How'd I get here? And we're zooming out. We can see him walking. Maybe this didn't burn. Maybe this version didn't burn down. It just isn't being kept up. So now he's got weapons on display and pictures of tigers and shit, as opposed to the dumb pictures he had before. And oh, what's this picture of? A younger Picard. Looked like he was quite a man in a blackish uniform. Looks like him from his heyday. But he never wore that uniform. And he goes looking for Laris. Laris, where are you? Oh, hey, it's one of those dumb androids from the first season. The sky is delightfully clear. He's Harvey. Are you feeling all right? Where's Laris? Laris is a Romulan name. Translates to a new day. Would you like him to check the migrant rosters? The migrant rosters. And he's like, what's happening here? And now in Q's voice, excellent question. No, 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 says Picard. And we see young Q. Young Q. And boom, just like that. He said, wow, you're a lot older than I remember. I'll do that. And he's exactly what I said would happen. We're going to see young Q for a short time. You're going to say, oh, you got old. He'll snap his fingers, and that's it. We never see probably young Q again. Now he'll be old Q, and that will take care of why Q aged. Much better than the reason than why Whoopi Goldberg aged. This I can believe. God damn Q. And Q comes over. Says, do you recall when I said when last we parted ways, the trial never ends? He's like, what the hell are you doing here? You've been talking a lot about second chances. Well, my friend, welcome to the very end of the road not taken. And Picard has a look of amazement on his face. And then we get a look at the upcoming season. And next week, Q tells him about what's going on. He's like, this is home. He's like, what about the crew of the Stargazer? He's like, there is no Stargazer. And apparently, somebody went back in time a single point in history, a single change in history in Los Angeles in the year 2024 caused the future to become a totalitarian nightmare, as Picard puts it. So they've got to go back in time to repair the past, to fix the future. Everything they do in the past has consequences. And yeah. I don't know if they go back in time next week or not, but maybe. They have to fix it no matter what happens. And Q says you're never too old for second chances, but he says this isn't a lesson. So I'm guessing Picard is going to say, please tell me this is a lesson and everybody who died you can bring back to life or something. He's begged that before, and Q gets mad at him and says, this isn't a lesson. This is a penance. But if it's a penance, what did he do for him? What did he do for him? Because at best, he just prevented him from dying, maybe, or prevented the Borg from coming through like a wormhole or something. I don't know. I will tell you this. I'm somewhat excited to see next week's episode. And that is far more than I can say for Star Trek Discovery. I just assume Discovery end at this point. They've yet to find the 10C, and I don't give a crap if they do or not. I'm over. This, I don't know. Yeah, it had some excitement. Man, that opening scene to see the starships again. There's a lot wrong with it. Whoopi Goldberg, Alorians choosing to age, Laris. But it has a whole lot more promise than Star Trek Discovery ever did. I'm going to give this episode a solid 6 out of 10. I would probably watch it again if it turns into a solid season. If it goes nowhere and does nothing, I'll easily forget it. But for what it is, for right now, a 6 out of 10. And with that, Bird out. Qapla.